minister responding this morning saying the U.S. and Israel have blown up the chance for diplomacy. In an exclusive interview with NBC News before the strikes, he warned Iran would respond to a U.S. attack.
Would Iran retaliate against U.S. targets and U.S. forces in the region or elsewhere?
Well, when there is a war, both sides attack each other. That's quite understandable. And self-defense is a legitimate right of every country. If the U.S. join Israel in these attacks, we will do the same. We actually retaliate in
what are they supposed to do?
Of self-defense.
And joining me now is Vice President J.D. Vance. Vice President Vance, welcome.
So I wanted to bring this up because I want to hear this response.
Thank you, Kristen. Great to be with you.
Thank you for
now let's see how much spin he puts on this.
My first question, Mr. Vice President, is the United States now
how much he points to Donald Trump's brilliance and strength and all of this bullshit.
We're with Iran's nuclear program. And let me just say, Kristen, that we're incredibly grateful and proud of the American Air Force pilots who did an incredible job last night. The operation was really extraordinary. These guys flew from Missouri. They didn't land a single time. They dropped 30,000 pound bombs on a target the size of a washing machine.
This is
and then got back home safely without ever landing in the Middle East or ever stopping, other than to briefly
the size
refuel.
of the facility was the size of a washing machine. Really?
Operation, a testament to the power of American military.
See, that's putting 100 on 10, man.
It shows what can happen when you have that great American military in the hands of capable presidential leadership. What we did is we destroyed the Iranian nuclear program. I think we set that program back substantially, and we did it without endangering the lives of the American pilots.
Set it back or destroy it?
I think we all should
if you
be
destroyed
proud
it, you didn't set it back.
Our politics, we should be proud of what these guys accomplished. A very, very high-impact mission under a lot of pressure.
These cats are
let's talk about what happens next.
Bible
President Trump
salesmen.
posted on social media, quote, any retaliation by Iran will be met with force
Three-card Monty
artist. If Iran retaliates against the U.S., as it is threatening, what will
shell game, whatever the fuck you want to call it. They have conned
going to be the president's
a
decision,
certain
but what we said to the Iranians is we do not want war
part
with Iran. We
of the American people.
But we want peace in the context of them not having
and
a nuclear
it's a
weapons
sad
program.
time,
That's
man.
exactly what the president accomplished last night.
Listen to this
I really
spin.
think there are two big questions for the Iranians here. Are they going to attack American troops, or are they going to continue with their nuclear weapons program? And if they leave American troops out of it and they decide to give up their nuclear weapons program once and for all, then I think the president has been very clear. We can have a good relationship with the Iranians.
Those were not choices.
We can have a peaceful situation in that region of the
Those
world.
were demands.
We have to step back a little
Don't
bit
retaliate
first
against
and
American
remind
troops,
ourselves that we
and don't
negotiated
continue with
aggressively
your
with the Iranians to try to find a peaceful
nuclear program.
settlement to this conflict.
And then we can be at
peace. It was
peace.
only when the president decided that the Iranians were not negotiating in good faith that he took this action. He didn't take it lightly, but I actually think it provides an opportunity to reset
But
this
you
relationship,
tore
reset
up
these negotiations, and get us in a
the
place
deal
where
that they have
Iran
signed with
can
America
decide not to be a threat to its neighbors
and the rest
not
of
to
the
be a
world.
threat to the United States, and if they're willing to do that, the United States is all ears.
But
Let's
because
talk about
Obama
the possibility of negotiations. I mean, the Iranian
made that
foreign
deal,
minister
a deal that Trump hadn't made not one deal since he's been in office. Not one. Other than what he's done with Putin.
Mr. Vice President, is there any
And whatever the
real
fuck
hope
they
for
got
diplomacy,
going on.
or is diplomacy dead at this
Diplomacy is dead.
Well, I think the foreign minister is exactly wrong. We didn't blow up diplomacy. We only took this action, Kristen, when it was clear, as the president said, that the Iranians were tapping us along. I think it's important for the American people to appreciate.
Okay, so what you gonna do about Russia?
March of this year,
tapping you along.
The entire administration engaged in this diplomatic effort, and frankly, in March of this year, we had some How do we get from there to now?
Netanyahu just tapped you along and made you do something that no other president
They were trying to draw
would
this
ever do.
process out as long as possible so that they could rebuild their nuclear weapons program without the threat of American action. We had a limited window in which we could take out this Fordo nuclear facility in particular. The president decided to take it, but we didn't blow up the diplomacy. The diplomacy never was given a real chance by the Iranians. And our hope, Kristen, as the president said repeatedly, is that this may be the reset
and
here.
deflect.
The Iranians have a choice. They can go down the path of
That
peace,
is
or they
this
can go down the
administration's
path
MO.
of this ridiculous brinksmanship, of funding terrorism, of trying to build a nuclear weapon, and that's just not something the United States can accept. I want to say something, Kristen, just to the Iranian leadership. Look, they have tried to build a nuclear weapons program. That program is now destroyed. They tried to build a conventional missile program to attack neighbors in the region. That missile program has shown to be a failure. They have funded terrorism aggressively in the region, and now most of their terrorism proxies are destroyed. The Iranians are clearly not very good at war. Perhaps they should follow President Trump's lead
And neither
give
are the
peace a
Americans.
chance. If they're serious about it, I
Well, we've
guarantee the
lost every
President of
war
the United
we've been in.
States is too.
So has the administration received any messages from the Iranians since the attack?
And if you think I'm
overnight?
bullshitting, go back and read. Not the wars that we declared we won,
12 hours since what happened last
but the actual
night.
outcomes of the wars that we
received
fought.
some indirect messages from the Iranians, and
Go
it's
check the
possible,
track
of course,
record.
that some of my colleagues in the administration received something early this morning, and I haven't heard about it. But look, our expectation is we're going to learn a lot about what the
Shout out
Iranians
to our
want to do,
military
how they want to
forces,
proceed
though.
over the next 24 hours. Again, I just can't be clear enough here. The president has said he
They just
wants
get put in
now
bad,
to engage in a diplomatic
unwinnable
process. But
situation.
if the Iranians are not going to play ball here, they didn't leave us many options as
For not so
pertains to
honorable
last
reasons.
night, and they won't leave
You
us many
dig?
options in the future.
If Iran disrupts the shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, which of course handles about a quarter of the world's oil trade, would that be a red line for the United States, Mr. Vice President?
Well, Kristen, I think our biggest red line is the Iranian nuclear weapons program. That is
See,
really
this is
what
the
the
thing.
president has said we need to get rid of.
But what about the Strait?
Why is it so bad for Iran to get nuclear
Well, I
weapons?
think that would be suicidal, Kristen, for the
Is it
Iranians
because it would give
themselves. Their
them
entire economy runs through the Strait of
some
Hormuz.
type of
If they want
leverage
to destroy their own
to not be
economy and
controlled
cause
like they're trying to be
disruption
done
to the
now?
world, I think that would be
Or
their
do you really
decision.
think
But
that
why
they would
do
actually
that?
launch
I don't think it makes any sense. I don't think that it
a
makes
nuclear
sense for them
attack
or for anybody
on the
else.
globe
What
when
makes
they
sense
know
is for them to come to the negotiating
that,
table to actually
okay,
give
they
up
got
their
5
nuclear weapons program over the long
nuclear
term.
weapons.
And if they're willing to do that,
The
they're
world got
willing to
5
help the
million.
United States of America.
Mr. Vice President, when did
Nobody's going to
President
commit
Trump
suicide like
exactly
that.
make
The only
this
people who's ever
decision?
used an
And did
atomic
he
bomb
coordinate
in the
with
history
Israel?
of the world is who?
The president, honestly, Kristen,
You
I
guessed
don't know that any of us knew exactly
The
when
motherfucking
president made the
United States
decision,
of
except
America.
for the president
So
himself. But
these are
if you
bully
back
tactics.
Up a little bit, we engage in this diplomatic
I want to have a
process.
gun, but I don't want you to have a
He
gun. Because if I have a gun, I
probably
control the
by
situation.
midday that this
If you get a
process was
gun,
not going
then it's a
anywhere,
fair
and so
fight.
we decided to issue some
I can't fuck with you,
ultimatums
right?
to the
You know what I'm saying?
Iranians.
That's that
And then eventually,
bullshit.
Of course, we decided to destroy the Fordo nuclear facility and some of these other facilities ourselves. I
So
think
America-
one of the things that you saw from the president's team, and I really am proud of all of our guys at the
Your
senior team,
chickens
is an
are about
operation
to
of
come
this
home to
magnitude.
roost.
Multiple B-2s, 14
The world is not
going
gonna
to
take
and even an hour
this-
after the attack,
this-
the
this
entire
global
media,
takeover by
our-
Donald
some
Trump.
of our enemies all over the world, they had no
It's just
idea
not gonna do it.
This was happening, and that's because you had a coherent team that was aligned behind the president's
And it's
vision.
gonna be people
There weren't
like
any
this
leaks. I think that made our troops safer as they carried
That's
out
gonna be
this
the
mission.
reason why
And so it's really a testament
this
to the
country
entire
fails.
team that we were able to do something like this at this scale.
History is
without
going to look
anybody
back
noticing.
at this
Mr.
moment.
Vice
These
President,
past
just
10 to
chime in.
15
Can you give me a
years.
specific date when President Trump said go? Was it Thursday? Was it yesterday?
When this clown Donald
Before
Trump
the
first
B2
came
was
onto the
left,
scene
when exactly did
and tapped
President Trump
into
give that green light, that
the
go?
the hate
Well, the final decision, Chris,
and the
of course,
fear
was
and
made
insecurity
right before, and I'm talking about
What was
minutes
that?
before
of
the
some
bombs
of the
were dropped.
American people
And of course, well, that was last night.
after
And
the ascension
president made
of
very clear that the purpose
the
here
first black
is to
president
eliminate the
of the
Iranian
United
nuclear
States.
program. So I think that he himself, over time, decided
And I challenge
this was
anybody
necessary. But of
to
course, he had
argue
the
against
ability to
that.
call off this attack until the very last minute. He obviously decided to proceed.
This
and I think he
is
did great things for
the
American
Obama
people because of it.
effect.
You know, the president says
in
the
its
nuclear
full effect.
enrichment sites were, quote, completely and totally obliterated. There is some question about
Make
that,
no mistake
though,
about it.
this morning. Do you have 100% confidence that Iran's nuclear sites were totally
100%
destroyed?
in anything.
Well, Kristen, I'm not going to get into sensitive intelligence about what we've seen on the ground there in Iran, but we've seen
That's
a
what
lot,
Trump
and I feel
said
very confident that we've
before.
substantially delayed their development of a nuclear weapon, and that was the goal of this attack. That's why it was a success. And of course, what happens next, again, Kristen, is up to the Iranians.
Substantially delayed by years? What does
Well, again,
substantially...
Kristen, I'm not going to get into sensitive intelligence here, but
Yeah.
I think that we have really pushed their program back by a very long
Deflect.
time. I think that it's going to be many, many years before the Iranians are able to develop a nuclear weapon. But again, our goal is that they're never able to develop a nuclear weapons program, and that is a conversation
They're just gonna ramp
we're
up
gonna have
now.
with the Iranians and also with our allies in the region.
So Iran, again,
They'll have a
has
weapon
said
before
that
Trump
they
gets out of
would
office.
retaliate if the U.S. got involved. There are some 40,000 American troops in the Middle East. The Pentagon is on high alert. Is the U.S. bracing for Iran to target American troops in the region?
Shit, you better be targeting what they're gonna do here
We're,
on
of
American.
course, Kristen, doing everything that we can to keep
domestic
our people
soil.
safe. I think that we're prepared in the event that the Iranians do retaliate. But my message to the Iranians is it would be the stupidest thing in the world. If
Not
they
just
did.
the
If you look
Iranians,
at
but
what
anybody
happened
who
last night, we had an incredibly targeted, precise,
has any type
surgical
of
strike
affiliation with
on
them.
the nuclear facilities that are the target of the American operation. Our national interest is for Iran to not get a nuclear weapon. Our strikes last night facilitated
Or
that
may carry
national
their
objective. If the
carry
Iranians
sympathies
want to enlarge this
for
by
them.
attacking American troops, I think that would be a catastrophic mistake. And as the president said yet last night, the Iranians would be met with an overwhelming force beyond that. So this is a very delicate moment, Kristen. I don't want to pretend that it's not. But I think the Iranians, if they're smart, they're going to have to look in the mirror and say, hey, maybe we're not so good at this war thing. Let's give peace a chance. Let's drop our nuclear weapons program and start to make some smarter decisions. We're, of course, hoping that's exactly what the Iranians do.
And I have a number more questions, so I want to
Good luck with
moving.
that.
How concerned is the administration that Iran or Iranian proxies could carry out a terrorist attack inside the United States?
There you go.
Well, unfortunately, Kristen, we know that a lot of people who we don't have full accounting of were let in over the last 4 years.
By that
under the
Biden administration.
We know that some of those
Yeah.
people were on terrorism watch lists. We feel very confident in our FBI and law enforcement that we're on top of this situation.
Cash Patel, really?
We're looking at this very closely. We're doing everything that we can to keep our people safe. And this is
We
one
got
of the reasons
Cash
why
Patel
border security
at the head
is
of the
national
FBI,
security, is if you let a
and
bunch
Pete
of crazy
Hegseth
people into your country, those crazy people can
as the
eventually
head of
take
the
action.
military.
We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that doesn't happen and to keep Americans safe.
Mr. Vice President, can you
If
rule
this
out
a-
that getting involved in
a clown
this
show,
conflict won't
I've never
eventually
seen
lead
one.
to U.S. boots on the ground?
Well, the president's been very clear, Kristen. We have no interest in a protracted conflict. We have no interest in boots on the ground. The president has actually been one of the fiercest critics of 25 years of failed foreign policy in the Middle East, which is why he did what he did. A very precise, a very surgical strike tailored to an American national
Yeah,
interest.
keep
And
going
that
back to
national
the point.
interest is Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It would be a disaster for us and for our allies in the region. So I
Spin,
fear that this is
spin.
going to become a protracted conflict because I think that we have a president who knows what's in America's interest and is willing to do the things necessary to accomplish that interest.
As you know, after an Iranian missile struck a hospital in Israel this week, Israel's defense minister said the Ayatollah, quote, can no longer be allowed to exist. Does the United States support Israel killing Iran's leader?
Hell
Well, look,
yeah.
that's up to the Israelis, but our view has been very clear that we don't want a regime change. We do not want to protract this or build this out any more than it's already been built out. We want to end their nuclear program, and then we want to talk to the Iranians about a long-term settlement here. We believe very strongly that there are two pathways. There's a pathway where Iran continues to fund terrorism, continues to try to build a nuclear program, attacks American troops. That's the bad pathway for Iran, and it will be met with overwhelming force. There's another pathway.
So how
on
much
the
think
table
terror-
here.
how
There's a
much
pathway
funding do you
where
think gonna be
Iran
reverted now
integrates itself into the
back to
international
terrorism?
community, stops funding terrorism, and stops trying to pursue a nuclear weapon. This is a reset.
I mean,
This is an
that's just
opportunity for the
counterproductive thought.
Iranians to take the smart path, we certainly hope that they will.
Couple more questions and we're almost out of time. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard said in March that, quote, Iran is not building a nuclear weapon.
WMD.
Democratic Senator Mark Warner, the vice chair of the
Same thing they told George Bush about Saddam.
On Monday that, quote, the intelligence hasn't changed. So why launch this strike now? Has the
They don't
intelligence
have
changed, Mr. Vice President?
But I think they do.
Well, a couple of things about that, Kristen. So what Tulsi
So I'm gonna
said
go
back
in.
in March is that Iran was producing highly enriched uranium that was only consistent with them wanting
Guns
to build a nuclear
blazing.
weapon. There's, of course, an open question about whether they were weeks away, whether they were months away, but they were way too close to a nuclear weapon. For
I
the
am an
comfort of
American.
The President of the United States,
I love
which is
being
why
an
he took
American.
this action. Now, there's another element
But I
here
hate,
too, Kristen, which is that we had a
I
narrow
mean,
window of
despise
opportunity. We might not have been able to carry out this
some of
attack
my
6
American
months down the
brothers and
road.
sisters.
And so when you recognize, on the one hand, the Iranians are trying to get a nuclear weapon, and on the other
And I
hand,
don't say
we have
that
a
lightly,
narrow
'cause I don't
window
hate
in which
people.
we can set that program back a very long time. It would have been irresponsible, I think, for the president
But I
not
hate
to take the action that he did, which is why
what these
the
people are
was
doing
destroyed last night.
And just to be very
in the
clear,
name
did
of
the
a
president
country
say go based on U.S. intelligence or Israeli
that
intelligence?
I actually
Well, of course, we share intelligence with a lot of agencies,
do think
British,
can be
Israeli, and so forth, but it was
the
our
greatest country on
intelligence
earth
that
if
motivated
we
us to
stood
act.
up
And
to what
I
we
think
say
on the intelligence,
we
Kristen,
stood
the
for.
thing that I would really emphasize is the way
But
in which
these
the
people,
Iranians seem
these
to be
types of
stonewalling
people,
us. That was not, by the way, our consensus back in March of
they
this
kill
year.
any idea
We
of
saw
that.
the Iranians making some concessions. We thought the conversations were actually productive.
And as an
By
American,
mid-May,
it pains me
everybody in our intelligence community and the president's senior team looked at ourselves and said,
to
the Iranians
know
are not being serious. They're no longer making concessions. They're no longer actually responding.
that America is
to some of
allowing
the
them to
offers
get
that
away
we're
with
making.
it.
If you believe, as we did, that the Iranians
That's the most
are
painful
rushing
thing.
towards a nuclear weapons
can't do nothing.
program while simultaneously refusing to negotiate, how can we do anything but take serious action against this program?
Do you and President Trump trust the U.S. intelligence community?
They got
and its
control of
assessments?
everything.
Oh, of course we trust our intelligence community, but we also trust our instincts, and most importantly, we trust what the intelligence was telling us about the Iranians stonewalling the negotiation. I think that is really the hidden story here, and something the media has got to report a little bit more here, is that the Iranians stopped negotiating in good faith. That was the real
No,
catalyst, I think,
Americans
to what the
stopped
president
negotiating
ultimately
in good
decided
faith
to
when
do.
they tore
If
up
we were having
the
a
nuclear
productive
deal.
negotiation, I think that this could have gone in a much different pathway. Unfortunately, the Iranians decided to stonewall us, and we saw the consequences of that last night.
Unfortunately,
Mr. Vice President,
y'all
very
want to
quickly,
create a
as you know,
problem
this is dividing lawmakers on
so you can come
Capitol
back and
Hill,
say
that
you
many Republicans supportive
resolved
of
an issue.
Congressman Thomas Massey saying this was unconstitutional. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying it's grounds for impeachment.
But what's
saying the president
unfortunate
should
for
have
you,
gotten congressional approval first.
it's not
What do
gonna
you say
turn
to
out that
members
way
of
for you.
Congress who say it was unconstitutional for the president to act
Or the
unilaterally?
country. or the world?
Well, I'd say two things, Kristen, and this is very important. First of all, the president has clear authority to act to prevent the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and the worst weapon of mass destruction of them all is nuclear. The idea that
And
this
we
was
got more
outside
than anybody.
presidential authority, I think any real serious legal person would tell you that's not true. And the second thing is, Kristen, I certainly empathize with Americans who are exhausted after 25 years of foreign entanglements in the Middle East. I understand the concern, but the difference is that back then we had dumb presidents, and now we have a president who actually knows how to accomplish America's national security objectives. So this is not
George
gonna be
Bush
some
would
long,
run
drawn-out
circles
thing.
around
We've
Donald
got
Trump.
in, we've done the job of setting their nuclear program back. We're
And
gonna
people
now
thought
work
George
to
Bush was an
permanently
idiot.
dismantle that nuclear program over the coming years, and that is what the president has set out to do. Simple principle. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. That has animated American policy over the past 130 days. It's going to continue to be a driving force of our policy in the Middle East for the next 3.5 years.
Vice President J.D. Vance, thank
If you
you
make
for
it that
joining us
long.
on a pivotal day. We hope you will come back very soon.
No, he might be president soon, though.
Thanks,
You never
Kristen. Good
know.
morning.
And good day to you. When
We'll
we come
see.
back, Senator Lindsey Graham